The day that we have the power to shut down groups because we don't agree with them is the day that constitutional democracy dies. Is free speech welcome in Europe? Based on what just happened in Brussels this week, you have to wonder. Efforts were made by a district mayor of Brussels to shut down a conference organized by NatCon, a conservative group. This conference involved a number of high-profile speakers, including Nigel Farage and Viktor Orban, but also quite a few elected representatives, a number of members of the European Parliament, and a German cardinal. The district mayor of that neighborhood intervened to shut down the event. He sent the police with an order that made reference to the ethically conservative values of the event, as well as the fact that there would be Eurosceptics at the event. So apparently, to be Eurosceptical or to hold ethically conservative values is to be a threat to public order. And this particular mayor also cited specifically the threat of a counter-protest that was to be organized by militant leftist activists as a justification for shutting down the event. Now, of course, if that was a justification, then anytime leftists wanted to shut down an event, they could just, threaten to organize a counter-protest, which would be utterly absurd. And then the organizers basically challenged the mayor's decision in the Supreme Court, or what the equivalent of Supreme Court, which is the Council of State of Belgium. And at midnight, the Council of State heard that case, and in the middle of the night, they delivered their verdict, which was that the police intervention was unconstitutional and it violated the freedom of expression and freedom of assembly of those participants, which was guaranteed in the Belgian constitution. So what are we to make of all of this? Well, on the one hand, it's a good thing to see that the constitutional system in Belgium is holding up and that judges were willing to intervene to protect the civil rights of these people who wanted to hold a peaceful event in Brussels. On the other hand, it's very worrying to see how militant leftist activists are able to intimidate hotels and venues into cancelling events for right-wing speakers. So let's be very clear. The freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, either they apply to all citizens, irrespective of where they land on the political spectrum, or they don't apply to anyone. If they apply only to leftist speakers, for example, then that is not freedom of speech. That is a form of totalitarianism. It's actually irrelevant whether or not you agree with the views being put forward at a peaceful political event. It's irrelevant whether or not you buy into a right-wing agenda, or whether or not you think Nigel Farage is a nice person, or whether or not you think he's a nice politician or a good politician. You have to allow these people to speak, because that's what it means to live in a constitutional democracy. The day that we have the power to shut down groups because we don't agree with them is the day that constitutional democracy dies. So let these events serve as a warning to all of us that free speech and freedom of assembly are not completely secure in Europe, and that radical leftist activists, I don't really care if they're from the left or the right, whoever they happen to be, are trying to intimidate venues to stop hosting people of certain political views. And that is deplorable. And I hope that this intervention by the highest court of Belgium, along with the intervention by the Prime Minister, will serve as an example to all of us and a reminder that the constitutional system of Europe and of its member states protects freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. And we must resist the efforts by militant activists, whether they're on the left or the right, to shut down events just because they don't align with their political preferences. If you enjoyed this video, you might like to check out my freedom blog at davidthunder.substack.com, where I discuss issues affecting our freedom in these turbulent times.